This townhall will be recorded as well. So if you do have family members or friends who cannot make it, it will be uploaded tomorrow on the Facebook page. And as of tonight, we will be on the YouTube page of the district as well.
So our first speaker is Troy. He is from Without Permission. It's an organization with downtown county. They do a lot of advocacy work and aftercare for victims of child. So we can give a little more welcome.
Right. Thanks, guys. We are, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Troy. I'm the CEO of Without Permission, an organization that's been in our county and in the Central Valley for around 13 years. We have a sole single lane that we work in, and we try to eradicate sex trafficking right here in the Central Valley. And so we're going to be sharing with you many things tonight over the next few moments of my presentation. Just be aware that this is probably going to be a little bit shocking to some of you. To some of you, it'll be a review of maybe what you already know. If you have children, my recommendation to you is to have a conversation with them later on this evening. Make sure it's open and honest and find out what their reflections are. I do want to let you know that some of what I'm going to be sharing with you over the next few minutes, if you have a history of child abuse or any kind of a trauma in your life, it might trigger some of those things. If it does, feel free to get up, go outside, take a breath, and take care of yourself during this presentation. So self-care, of course, is very, very important. All right, let's go ahead and get started. This is Human Trafficking 101. So it's an explanation, understanding of what human trafficking is. More importantly, how it affects us right here at home, not just internationally or across our nation, but right here in the Central Valley, because this really is a big deal that needs to be addressed. I'm so proud of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here for this town hall meeting. All right, Without Permission was established in 2010. We've been around for 14 years now. Our mission is to restore the victimized, to educate our youth, to prevent exploitation, and to attack the lies that drive demand. So we really have three pillars that we work with here in our community. The first one is the pillar of prevention. That's what we're doing tonight. We're educating the community. We also avail ourselves to the schools to go in to educate students in a program we call hashtag not a price tag. It's a program that is designed for high school, junior high, or middle school age young people, that we can teach them about human trafficking on an age appropriate level and how they can look out for vulnerabilities in their friends and then protect themselves as well. We encourage you to stop by all of these booths. I have amazing materials and resources for you. Please make sure you visit them tonight. Ours is the first one over here, and Clint is right back there. Clint is our prevention director. He's the one who oversees all of our campus operations. So we're really excited about prevention. But then we spend a lot of our resources on what's called restoration. That's where we identify the victims, or we call them survivors of sex trafficking, from right here in the Valley. And we help them to become restored. We offer them counseling services. We certainly give them life skills, a voice, a navigator in their life, a mentor in their life that understands and is well educated in this field. And then, of course, with developmental skills and so forth. And then thirdly, we're in the area of justice. Our goal is to eradicate this thing. One of the ways we can do that is by putting pressure upon our politicians, our legislators, our senators, our congressmen and women, as well as our district attorneys, which we appreciate our DAs in the area, but we want these traffickers, these pimps, to be prosecuted. If you're exploiting a child, you need to go to prison. That's what we want to happen in our community. So you're going to learn some things, why we're so drawn to making a difference. By the way, if you feel at the end of this evening that you'd like, man, I want to be a part of something like that. We're a local nonprofit, and so you can come and join us as a volunteer. Currently, we have about 18 on our staff, full-time people that are solely focused on battling sex trafficking. We also have about 40 or 45 navigators. Those are volunteers that have gone through intense training to work with survivors of sex trafficking. And then we have about 500 volunteers across the Central Valley that volunteer to help us in the battle. If you want to be a part of that, man, just stop by. You can take a picture of the QR code and find out some more information. All right. Why do we serve? The sale and purchase of children for sex is the second largest illegal industry in our country and has become a multi-billion-dollar industry that is expected to surpass the illicit trade of guns and narcotics within 10 years. This statement was drafted, written by the Department of State in the year 2008. It is now 16 years later, and it has become an absolute fact and reality in culture. The sale of children for sex in the United States is the #1 illegal industry, producing the most revenue and profit in our country. And that's one of the reasons, that's certainly the reason why we serve. The International Labor Organization estimates that currently in the world, there are around 25 million human trafficking victims worldwide at any time. There are more people in slavery today than have ever been in the history of humanity. It's a huge deal, and it's not just international, it is home. Why? Because in recent years, transnational and criminal organizations, affiliated domestic gangs have begun to move into the area of trafficking human beings. They have been trafficking guns and narcotics for a long time, but now they're moving into human beings. Why? Because a drug can be bought and sold just one time, but a human being can be sold multiple times every evening and for multiple evenings for years in a row. It's modern day slavery, and that's why we serve. Let me give you some national data to kind of put this in perspective. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children helps us to know that 51% of the human trafficking victims in our country are children, are under the age of 18. These are people, boys and girls, that are being sold for sex to deviant, aggressive, evil people. We like to tell you where the victims originate, but in no particular order. Victims, or we call them survivors, are from all over the globe. But the three primary countries that most of the victims of human trafficking come from are the Philippines, Mexico, and hands down, bar none, the largest producer of human trafficking victims is the United States of America. More children are trafficked from the United States than any other nation on the globe. And why? Because money is driving the demand. California of the United States is one of the nation's top destinations for the sale of human beings, for trafficking human beings. Let me give you a quick understanding of what trafficking is. When you brushed your teeth this morning, you participated in trafficking. Why? Because the raw materials that were used to create your toothbrush were purchased or were mined or bought or whatever, created. They were then taken to a manufacturing plant. They were moved. That was then taken to a distribution center. And then it was taken to a retail establishment, the store, the Walmart. And then you bought it. The product was moved for sale so that it could be sold. A human being is also moved or mobilized so that that human being, for either labor or for sex, can be sold for money. So trafficking is the moving of product in the exchange of money. And so let's kind of look at a couple of laws that will help us understand the reality of human trafficking. This is called the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. This is from the year 2000. To somebody my age, that's not that long ago. But historically, I don't believe it's that long ago, because this law actually changed the culture when it reflects human trafficking. Why? Because this law, but prior to the year 2000, in the United States of America, if you sold another human being for sex, whether they were over the age of 18 or under the age of 18, it was considered a misdemeanor. It was not a felony. Prior to the year 2000, it was a misdemeanor. This law changed that. It then made it a felony if you sold another human being for sex. It should be that way. Our laws are catching up to culture, because for so long, culture has stuck their head in the sand and pretended that this does not exist, when in fact it certainly does exist. All right, the law, we won't read the whole thing, but the top paragraph has to do with sex trafficking. That's what we are working to eradicate. The bottom paragraph deals with labor trafficking. That's not our lane, so we're only going to look at the top paragraph. It's very important that we understand this. So, federal law defines severe forms of trafficking in persons as sex trafficking, in which a commercial sex act is induced by force, fraud, or coercion, or in which the person induced to perform such an act has not yet attained the 18 years of age. That sounds like a lot of legal jargon, so I'm going to break it down for you a little bit. A commercial sex act, that's what we need to understand first. Sex trafficking deals with a commercial sex act. What is that, Troy? Well, I'm going to answer for you. It is anything of value in exchange for a sex act. Anything of value in exchange for a sex act. A cheeseburger is something of value in exchange for a sex act. It doesn't seem valuable to you or I, but it's valuable to a homeless runaway who's hungry. A place to sleep when you're out on the streets and you just want a warm place to sleep, and somebody's like, dude, you can come sleep on my couch. You don't have to sleep out here. And so that's something of value in exchange for a sex act, because at 2:30 in the morning, she's woken up to say, hey, you didn't think this was free, did you? Anything of value in exchange for a sex act. A coach says to a player, hey, you want to start on Friday? No problem. Just send me some pictures. Take off your shirt, take some pictures. Nobody will ever know. Anything of value in exchange for a sex act. The Wi-Fi password. I can't check my emails. Well, you do this for me, I'll give you the Wi-Fi password. You're like, these are ridiculous, Troy. No, these are 4 actual true stories from some of our 887 survivors from the Central Valley that we have served thus far in our 13-year history. And you're like, why would somebody exchange a cheeseburger for something so horrible? Well, when it's the best option of a whole lot of really bad options, then you kind of tend to go that direction if you're really, really hungry. The story is told, a true story of a girl who her dad was a police officer. Now, we should trust the police, but in this case, he was one of those rare, low percentage ones that was not a good person. And he was sexually assaulting her regularly as a part of the home. And he would threaten her with his service revolver. You aren't going to be able to tell anybody what I'm doing to you. I'll find you and nobody will believe you. She finally got out of that home. It was kind of a miracle that she did, only to get into a foster home that was equally as bad. Not just once, not twice, but 3 foster homes that were equally as bad as the home life. She finally got out of that 3rd foster home through kind of a miracle, and getting out of that 3rd foster home, she was placed in a healthy foster home. I'm here to tell you that that girl, who was 16 years old at the end of her foster kind of journey until she got into a good home, probably should have run away. She had every excuse to run away, but who could she trust? She couldn't trust the police. She couldn't trust CPS, even though they're trustworthy, but they placed her in 3 different foster homes, unknown to them, that were unhealthy, that hurt her. She couldn't trust her family because her family never took her in to begin with. Fortunately, she didn't run away, because if a teenager runs away in the Central Valley of California, they will be approached, a homeless youth will be approached by a human trafficker within 24 to 48 hours of them being homeless. That's how rapidly this thing happens. Why? Because human traffickers, sex traffickers, are looking for vulnerabilities in our youth. How many of you saw the movie The Sound of Freedom? Did anybody see that? Great movie. I'm so grateful for that movie, bringing to the forefront of culture the human trafficking epidemic that we have. But I'm here to tell you that is not how it happens 90% of the time in the United States. It's not the snatch and grab. It's not the green van that pulls up and opens the door and grabs a child and off they go. That's not usually how it happens. Human traffickers are targeting our children. They always are targeting our children. They're paying attention to the vulnerabilities that our kids have. And so we want to raise awareness to that, make sure that we pay attention to those vulnerabilities, those vulnerable communities, and try to ensure that that they have some assistance in their lives. Okay. By the way, that girl I told you about, that's my wife. We've been married 35 years. She got out of that environment, and I'm so thankful that she did. She is now a counselor, directs a counseling center. She serves an incredible life and has flipped the script on all of the abuse that she endured and went through. But that kind of trauma takes years. And without permission, we'll walk the walk with people as long as it takes. Some of our survivors that have gone through horrible things that you can't imagine, our navigators have been walking with them as mentors in their life. Those navigators have been invited to be in their weddings. They've been invited to be in the birthing room when they give birth to their children, to go to their graduation. So our job is to continue to be with them as long as they'd like us to be in a relationship with us, because we want to serve them and help them get through the trauma they've experienced. Force, fraud, or coercion. What is that, Troy? Well, how about this? Violence, trickery, or manipulation. That's what a sex trafficker is utilizing. They're trying to coerce our children into a relationship with them and trying to draw them out of a relationship with healthy people, with their families, with their friends. They want them to be isolated. Once they're isolated, then they can begin to break them down psychologically, which we'll look at a little bit of that this evening in the time we have. All right, let's go on. There's a second law I want you to see. This one was from January 2017. It's California SB 1322. Before this law, if a person under the age of 18 was being trafficked, they would be arrested for prostitution, and they would be put in consequences. They would be put in juvenile hall, or they would be prosecuted for that. This law changed everything. It decriminalized prostitution for anybody under the age of 18. Listen to me. There is no such thing as a child prostitute. There is no such thing as somebody under the age of 18 that is a prostitute. They might be defiant, and they might be angry. They might even try to convince you that they chose this life. They did not choose this life. They are a victim of trafficking. And our job is to try to bring them and draw them out of that life, that game that they're in. Or stats tell us they'll be dead within 7 years. This law was a great law. Now law enforcement is required to report immediately once they discover the child that they've arrested in sting operations and so forth for prostitution. Once they discover that they're under 18, then they're required to report to CPS or to CSA here in our county, try to get services involved to be able to support these kids, to help them, to find out what in the world is going on. I just did a training for CPS employees this morning, trying to make sure that they're informed as to how do we do this? How do we interpret it? How do we determine if somebody is being exploited? All right. So these two laws were very important. This map is the Polaris map. Polaris is the National Human Trafficking Hotline. It's that 800 number that you can call for the country, which is great. We recommend that people use it. The challenge with that number is sometimes it can take up to 6 days for them to respond to your telephone call because they're so inundated with calls. So we operate a 24-hour crisis support line for anybody in the community. You can call in, you can ask, and we'll serve and we'll help. But let me talk about this map. Anywhere you see bright red, that's where the majority of the human trafficking hotline calls have come in nationally. You might expect on the East Coast, New York, New Jersey, down to Miami, even into Chicago, you might expect large metropolitan areas to have a large number of human trafficking calls. Why? Well, because there's a lot of people, there's international ports and airports, there's maybe a lot of poverty, which is an extreme vulnerability. So you might expect that, but I want you to trace all the way over to California. You'll see the southern tip of Nevada there. That's Las Vegas. It's bright red. You'd expect Southern California to be bright red. Why? Because of the international border, because of so much that's going on with the cartels and so forth. But I want you to look, the Bay Area, you'd expect that large population, ports, airports, so forth. But the Central Valley is just as dark red. The Central Valley is a part of the national circuit, the statewide circuit, and the local circuit for sex trafficking right here in our community. Why is that? Well, we're going to talk about it right now. This is the national circuit. Moving children, remember, we talk about trafficking as moving product that you're going to sell. Moving a child to be able to sell them for the purpose of sex is Probably not as easy anymore. It's not as easy anymore to be done by putting them on a plane or in a cargo container on a ship, because you have to have paperwork. It's difficult to sneak, but it's not difficult to sneak a child on the interstate system. So the national circuit is primarily the I-80, which goes, all the way across from East Coast to West Coast. Also the I-10 along the southern portion of the United States, and the I-5 from Canada down to Mexico on the West Coast. Well, you'll notice where those intersect is the Central Valley, right where we live. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. If you look around in the Central Valley, what kind of industry or buildings have been popping up over the last decade? Distribution warehouses. You see them all over the place. Now, I'm not suggesting those distribution warehouses are housing children, not in any way. But if the business community knows that if we're going to traffic or move our toothbrushes and we have to have a place to distribute them from, that the Central Valley is a good location because we can get our product moved rapidly, then certainly the evil industry, the illegal industry of human trafficking knows the same thing. So we're part of a national circuit. Also, we're part of what's known as the statewide circuit. Listen to this.
So let's look at the FBI tonight. This is the latest on Operation Los Angeles. We consider modern-day slavery. Young human trafficking victims, some forced into prostitution, are now safe and away from their abusers. 33 juvenile victims, ranging in age from 13 to 17. And in that, we were able to identify that at least 8 of them had been sexually exploited. That is something that we take very seriously. Operation Lost Angels started on January 11th by teams of local, state, and federal agencies. Christy Johnson is the assistant director in charge of the FBI Los Angeles Field Office. The fact that it's a surge and to recover 33 child victims is a huge success. Johnson says in most sex trafficking, the victims know the person forcing them to sell their bodies. Sometimes people they know, sometimes people in their circle of friends or family. Sometimes it is somebody that's actually a love interest that appears to be a love interest, legitimate love interest, and they think they have a relationship with this person. During this multi-agency operation, all the victims were on the track, a term used to describe a known location for commercial sex trafficking. We did arrest one individual on state charges for human trafficking, but we also started new investigations into additional traffickers. Currently, the FBI has 86 human trafficking task forces across the country. I'm Gina Silva.
All right, so that's an example of statewide trafficking right here in the state of California. I'm married to my wife for 35 years. To many of you people, I'm old, but I'm not. I have 4 daughters, grown daughters, 7 grandchildren, 6 of them granddaughters, and then the testosterone shift. We got 1 grandson. I'm here to tell you that we want to protect our children. This sickens me to hear this. It sickens me to hear that a few years ago, 39 kids were rescued in Tracy. It sickens me to think that just a few weeks ago, 17 kids were rescued in Turlock. And I can't even begin to explain to you the smaller pods of kids that have been rescued in our region from sex trafficking. I am not trying to develop paranoia. The last thing we want you to do with parents is go home and say, you're never leaving the house again, right? That's not what we're trying to do. So let's just address the elephant. You're getting educated. But if you're aware, just being here it increases your chances of decreasing vulnerability significantly and helping other people around you. So bravo to you for being here, and bravo for you for watching online as well this evening. So we're really, really very proud of you. So that's the statewide. Then I want to introduce you a little bit to the local circuit. This is the local circuit of sex trafficking, human trafficking, right here in the Central Valley. So you'll notice it's kind of Sacramento down to Fresno, and then Stockton and Modesto and all the communities kind of in between, as well as the Bay Area, San Francisco and San Jose. So what happens is the trafficker, once he lures, manipulates, coerces, grooms the girl or the boy into the game, into that lifestyle, he wants to keep them mobile. He wants to disorient them so that they're not in the same place almost every evening. We do education for teachers And a lot of educators have said to me, oh, there was a kid that and now that you've shown me this, there was a kid that I think that they were, but then they moved. Well, maybe they moved, but maybe they didn't move. And nobody should feel guilty about it, but we need to pay attention to this thing because traffickers want to move their product to keep them disoriented. So if we were to go back to the state or to the national one, you can see once again we're fully connected. The interstate systems, and then of course our local circuit. So this is what we're dealing with without permission, trying to make sure that we are helping as many as we possibly can and restoring the victimized. Some local without permission data. In the last 13 years, this is as of January 1st, 887 have been served through without permission. Now, who are those? Those are the vast majority are under the age of 18. Not all of them are, but I can tell you 100% of them have been sex trafficked or sexually exploited from right here. They live right here. 91% call the Central Valley their home. 98% call California their home. These are our kids. They play on our ball teams. They go to our schools. Why would they go to school, Troy? Well, because sometimes it's mom or dad that are trafficking them. These are they live in our neighborhoods, and we need to be paying attention and looking out for these children. The youngest one that we've served, this is a little disturbing, but the youngest one that we've served is 11 years old. And I used to think, wow, we served an 11-year-old, but every week we have a staff meeting, bring all of our team together from the Family Justice Center, from Stockton. We bring them in from the probation department, from juvenile hall, from CSA, all of our offices that we have around the community, not to mention our admin offices. And we even have a day facility where survivors can come and be served. We bring them all together on Tuesday mornings so we can meet together. We also pray together. So we pray for these kids and we just for the support of each other. But one of the things that I like to do is we like to really think of and pray for our survivors. So we get a list of survivors. I tell you this, not to tell you any information about them, other than this. We now have 3 more 11-year-olds on the list. It just blows my mind. So when we start thinking this is only for older kids, older young adults, that's not true. This 11-year-old was a boy. He's from Stockton. He was removed from his mom's home because she was unfit, and he should have been removed from his mom's home. But he was placed with his grandmother, and unfortunately, CPS had no idea that grandma had a meth addiction. So grandma needed to feed her meth addiction, so she had to make some money. So she dressed up her 11-year-old grandson as a little girl, and she sold him for deviant, aggressive, horrible sex 6 or 7 times every night. And it lasted for over a year. The trauma that this child experienced, you can't even begin to fathom. This is why we do what we do. It's try to help the least and the last in culture that really need our help. And they need to be served, not just rescued, but they need to be restored. They need help. And so we're here to do that. Some of our survivors have said these quotes to us. Now, I need you to think for a second as you read these. How does a human being get this low psychologically that they believe what they're saying? Like one girl said, my life had become a bargaining tool in order to stay alive. How do you get that low? Another one had said, I needed to meet a $700 quota a night. She needed to sell herself. She's 15. She needed to sell herself for $700 every single night. Why did she need to? Because her pimp, because her trafficker was requiring that of her. Because the consequence was, I know where you live. In fact, I know which window is your sister's room. And I will find her. And he just, you can imagine what he told her. Just the brainwashing that happens, the drawing away from the family, the coercion that took place in her mind. Another one said, I can't believe this one, I owed him for allowing me to live another day. How low do you have to get to say something like that to another human being? Now, I don't know if you are like me, but you might be getting a little angry right now, a little indignant inside of you, certainly probably feeling sad. I understand. My job is not to shock you. My job is just to inform you. And we're going to see what we can do with that in just a few minutes. So take some deep breaths. Let me talk to you about the trafficking methods. Trafficking methods, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has published this, and we found this to be very true in the Central Valley. There are really 4 trafficking methods that human traffickers use, and one of those trafficking methods is what's called familial. Familial is family. That would be the grandmother that decided she was going to sell her grandson. That would be the dad that goes to his daughter and says, I can't pay the rent. Would you help me out? I just need you to take a couple of pictures, or I just need you to do a little dance. You can't imagine, but this stuff happens. I just got a call from another small community on Saturday as I was with my family watching my grandkids, and had to respond to a call from a pastor who was telling me that we just discovered at a church work day that a girl was being trafficked by her mother. And we called the authorities, we got in there, served the family, and certainly it was. That's exactly what was happening. And this just flew under the radar. I'm telling you, this stuff happens more often than we, through the family. Gang affiliation is spreading certainly in our region. If you're going to be part of a gang, it's kind of like family, right? You're going to be part of a gang, then you have to provide some sort of resources for them. So selling yourself or making that a requirement of being in the gang oftentimes is a part of it. This one here, the Romeo Juliet, this is the boyfriend pimp. This is the way that a boy will try to befriend a girl that might have some vulnerabilities, which we'll talk about what those are in just a moment. And maybe she's never had a boyfriend before, and he makes her feel like she's $1 million, and he draws her into a relationship. Oftentimes he's older than she is. And after a while, he begins to break her down. He asks innocent things of her, but they're not innocent. It's grooming her for what is to come. And then he begins to separate her from her family. She gets her own phone. It's the hotline of love that they have. But truly, he's tracking her. He's trying to make sure that he keeps, she has to answer that phone. If she doesn't answer that phone, she's going to be in serious trouble. The Romeo Juliet one is most common in our school systems. And then finally would be the buyer perpetrated. That would kind of bypass the trafficker. And that would kind of just be the coach that says to the girl, if you'll do this for me, then I'll let you do this. There are three people in this crime. There is the victim, or what we call the survivor. There is the purchaser. That's the John. That's the person that wants to buy people for sex, whether they're over the age of 18 or under. And then there is the trafficker, the one that is the mastermind of it all. And so we try to address it on all three levels. What are some warning signs? Now, I want to let you know, as parents, primarily as educators, as community members, if you experience one or even two of these in your family, it does not mean that your child or your grandchild is being trafficked. But we need to pay attention because something's going on. So let's look at them together. A warning sign might be if a child is now truant and they hadn't been truant prior to this. Or all of a sudden, they're oftentimes more truant. They're just not showing up for what they're responsible for showing up for, school, or maybe they have an after-school job or something. They're just not all of a sudden not showing up. And if you're an employer, probably better something's going on. Pay attention to that. If they seem disoriented, they seem drugged. Oftentimes, traffickers, pimps, if the young lady or young man isn't already addicted to some sort of chemical, drugs, whatever, they'll try to get them addicted to it. And they'll want to take those substances because they want to numb the pain. And then they can't exist without it. So now he has leverage to make her do whatever he wants her to do. So if they seem drugged or disoriented, excessively tired, there's a reason for that. If they're malnourished, if a child is malnourished, or we tend to see it this way, if they eat as if ravenous. Well, some of y'all are teenagers and that's just what you do. You suck it in, right? I understand. So some of these are normal teenage behaviors, but oftentimes a trafficker will want the girl to look a certain way, to not weigh too much, because she's more marketable for his industry, for his business to sell. And so he'll starve her. You can't eat that. You can't do that. And again, through force, fraud, or coercion, threats, violence, trickery, manipulation. And so she doesn't. But then when she's away from him for brief periods of time, just suck the cheeseburger up because she's just so hungry. We see this. If there's sudden changes in their attire, a child all of a sudden has really nice shoes, or they have a really cool jacket that you think or you believe, well, that's nice, but it's probably beyond the means of their family to have. Grandma might have bought it for them. It might just be a normal gift. but it might mean that they're being groomed by somebody because somebody's buying them gifts and capitalizing on the fact that the perception is that she doesn't have stuff that she really wants. And so he'll get her stuff that she wants in trying to draw her into a love relationship. If the behavior is sudden change too, if you see she or he is withdrawn, depressed, excessively sad, something's going on. We need to lean into it and figure it out. If sudden noises, they irrationally respond, that's kind of a PTSD response. There's some trauma there, something's going on. So we probably, if it's not like a normal response, but a really bad scream or whatever, that's really rough. If they're crying a lot, if they have a controlling boyfriend or a friend, it's the phone. I've got to take this call. There's no option. Well, there's something going on there. I can't meet you after school, or because why? Because they have somebody that's demanding their time. There's something going on. It doesn't mean they're being trafficked, but you put this stuff together and there are definitely some warning signs to pay attention to. All right, I'd like to show you another video if I can. Let's listen to this.
I was 15. I was 17 years old. Tell me what you thought about the trafficker when you first met. It was actually not a him. It was a her, and I felt that person was a friend. I met him through Snapchat. I just, I would watch his stories, whatever. He would watch my stories, and he ended up swiping up on my stories. We started talking, and that's when everything started.
After I met my friend, she kind of led me on down this path that kind of just put everything out of control. And at that time, I believed of her as like a big sister. Like I trusted her a lot with everything. And she betrayed me.
They teach you not to trust anybody. They teach you, police are not there to help you. They're the enemies. They teach you, not to talk to your friends because they won't understand you, and they're not gonna want to be your friend once you know what you're doing. They're not gonna want to help you. You can't trust them. The only person you can trust is the trafficker.
Out of 19 years, I still feel the brokenness and pain in my body from the violence every day.
I still have nightmares sometimes. I would think of my trafficker just as a manipulator, someone that's very evil, selfish, a sociopath, most definitely. I see him now, just a liar and someone that likes to mess with your mind to get, to benefit himself.
I felt like things are over. Even though that's not how I wanted it to be.
You feel safe.
No.
My experience about permission, I would say guys were basically like my life jacket.
I was always being used for something, and they didn't want to use me at all. They wanted to help me, and they didn't want anything in return. And that's something that I really took to heart and appreciated.
I've just been able to feel, I've been able to understand more, and they just helped to empower me and support me.
Now I'm able to be confident, have a smile on my face, and be happy because I know that I am strong, and without permission, it's not happening.
Without permission helped me know that I was a victim, an innocent victim that was targeted by people who knew what they were doing. What happened to me doesn't define me. I learned that I can take my story and show the world that you can go through all this stuff and come out the other side bright, shiny, and new.
When you're trying to change and you want it so bad, it's easy to fall back and get sucked back up into that lifestyle. It's really easy, and it's a hard battle that you have to have with yourself. That's having everything in your power to make sure that I grew from this experience and I was able to, come out like that, be a statistic that going back into the life, and I was able to make myself into the woman that God knows I can be.
couple of those girls that you saw on screen just now, please to share with you that
one of them now travels the circuit, but it's not the circuit that she had to be a part of through coercion before. She now travels the West Coast, leading survivor awareness seminars and helps people to understand that you can get out of the game. I'm proud of her. Another one works for us as a survivor leader, so I'm so proud of her. Guys, our job is to help end this, and one of the ways that you can protect your family is by guarding social media. In just a few moments, you're going to be given another opportunity to hear a very valuable lesson about guarding your social media, understanding parameters, understanding how you can put safeguards on social media, on all internet access devices that you have at your home. And there's a lot of resources that you're going to be given as well. The last thing that I kind of want to go through is certainly we want to end this thing, but we like to make sure that we have a few resources for you. You can snap a picture of this unless you want to stop by the table. You can pick up a card from us as well. This is our, certainly we encourage you to call Crime Stoppers. If you see something happening, call 911. We have people that say, I'm at McDonald's and I think there's a trafficking thing going on here. Don't call us in that moment. Call the police. They'll respond immediately. They have told us, the sheriff's department, the police department told us over and over again, we'd rather have 20 unfounded calls than miss the one that is correct. So don't hesitate to do that. And then our crisis support line is 24 hours a day, manned. You can be part of that team if you want to, with proper training and vetting and so forth. But you can call us for any resources. If you're like, hey, I'd like to know more about this, or I have a suspicion about my neighbor, my daughter, my friend, whatever, we can get you resources and point you in the right direction. Then there's our office number. I'm going to end my portion of this tonight with just a quote. It's one of my favorite quotes that there is. I am only one, but I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. On behalf of our 887 survivors at Without Permission, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting, and thank you for being aware of this reality in our culture. God bless you guys.
Good evening. That was heavy. I did exactly the thing Troy said not to do. I texted my husband and said, she's never leaving the house. My husband's a high school teacher in Modesto, and he's actually had the opportunity to hear from Without Permission for a number of years. He goes, oh yeah, no, we're gonna buy an island. We're putting her on the island. She's never getting off the island. And the reality is that there's more for you to learn. So as was shared, my name's Amy Wolf. I'm with Legacy Health Endowment, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time tonight sharing with you really important information for all of us as parents about both gaming, video gaming, and social media. You've got copies of the guides. You don't need to follow along. I'm going to do some things at some high level, but I want to encourage you. If you have other family members, friends, neighbors who weren't able to come tonight, please come up and grab extra copies of the guides to take to them. So first, what is Legacy Health Endowment? What is our organization, and why do we have these guides available to you? So we are a private nonprofit foundation that was formed back in 2014 when Emmanuel Medical Center sold. One big medical company bought it, and in that transaction, the state of California required that some of the profit actually be put into a private endowment, and that the funds in that endowment have to be used to improve the health of the people who live in the zip codes served by Emmanuel Medical Center, which is 19 zip codes in southern Stanislaus County and northern Merced County. And the vast majority of what we do is give money away to really good organizations doing really important work to take care of our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health. Every now and again, though, we actually do something, and these guides are a product of that. The gentleman who is our president and CEO, Jeffrey Lewis, has been really concerned about our collective mental health long before what I call the great global dumpster fire, right? Long before COVID, he was really concerned about how our kids are doing. And so these guides were created. One of the things that we do is we fund scholarships for people in the nursing program at Stanislaus State. And a few of our nursing students helped do the research for these guides. And so what have we found? Some basic background information. 96% of all teens today own a smartphone. 90% of teens between the ages of 13 and 17 are actively on social media, and I'm convinced the other 10% have friends and are mooching, right? And we will be back in a moment. I talked with my hands, I made it go away. The last statistic was roughly 72%, there we go, 72% of teens are playing video games. Gang, I'm 45 years old, probably one of the few women who will like publicly admit to a lot of people how old she is. I'm 45 years old. I'm the original Atari, right? I graduated from high school in 1997, right? I remember the original Super Mario Brothers. Back then, gaming was not a thing. Today, gaming is life. It's gaming devices, gaming consoles, gaming systems. They sell special computers that enhance your gaming experience. Gaming is a huge part of our culture today. Our kids' mental health is so not okay. It has gotten so bad that in March of last year, the US Surgeon General, the doctor for the country, officially declared a national youth mental health crisis. And in doing so said he believes the single #1 cause of our kids' mental and emotional health not being okay is social media. He's also gone on to say, and the social media machine, right? It's billions of dollars. Think about this, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, billions of dollars. They're not going to do anything to help us because it's billions of dollars. A couple of weeks ago in Congress, Washington, D.C., House of Representatives, the CEOs of all the major social media platforms were testifying because there's a bill in the House of Representatives right now to create restrictions on how much access to social media kids under the age of 18 can get to. None of these companies are in support. Mark Zuckerberg, right? He's the guy that created Facebook. He's now Facebook, Instagram. He apologized for the damage Instagram has caused teenagers, in particular, teenage girls, and the effect on their body image. Apologized and said there's a problem, but will not support the law because it's billions of dollars on the line. So the US Surgeon General has said he doesn't expect social media companies to help us, right? There's too much money. So it's up to us as families to create boundaries. It's okay to tell your children no, please do, and limit the exposure that they have because they're not okay. Our kiddos are not okay. Here's what he found. Here's what his office found. 1 in every 6 kids between the ages of 6 and 17 in our country have a diagnosed mental health disorder. Almost 20% of the kids in our country today have gone to a mental health professional. A doctor has diagnosed them with anxiety, depression, and eating disorder that is a function of body image issues. 1 in 6 kids. You guys, when I was a kid, I don't even think we knew what a mental health disorder was, let alone having a system that is now having to address and diagnose these issues. Roughly 2/3 of adolescents say they have often or sometimes been exposed to hate content on social media. And it's a little hard to see, but the last one says over 50% of teenagers say they would have a really hard time if you took that social media away from them, which speaks to the addiction issue that we now see in our teenagers today. There's 2 guides for you. The purple one is social media. The green one is all about video games. I'm going to tell you this, even if your kids aren't gaming, take the gaming guide. And even if you're not letting your kids on social media, take the social media guide. There's really important information in both. And the more you know, right, the better chances you have. And frankly, keeping up with your kids, right? My daughter's 10 years old. She's in 4th grade. We live out in Escalon. Again, the husband's a high school teacher. He's been teaching high school for 20 years. She's 10 going on 28, mind you, right? The eye rolling, the size, I was not ready for that at 10. I figured like 12, maybe 13. No, 9 years old. Like there's a neck roll, there's a snap. I'm having a hard time some days, I'll tell you. All right. Interesting data. This is as of the end of 2022. So what was the most popular app, the most downloaded app in 22? Are any of us surprised that it was TikTok? No. Right? I mean, TikTok has exploded. It's interesting to see what's happening right now, right? Right now, the House of Representatives just passed a bill to ban TikTok in the United States. The Senate is, I know, but is it going to happen? Because what are we talking about? What are we talking about, right? I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think the Senate will sign off on it. The president says he'd sign the law. I find it interesting. He says he's going to sign the law, but on Super Bowl weekend, he launched his TikTok campaign for re-election, right? Talking out of both sides of your mouth, like a good politician. All right, I was shocked though, because, right, us old people are on Facebook, young people are not on Facebook. I was shocked that Facebook was the 2nd most downloaded app of 22. I thought to myself, who is not already on Facebook? And then I remembered, my 79-year-old father is now addicted to Facebook. Addicted to Facebook. He is now the guy who cannot talk to my mom in a restaurant because he is scrolling. And we're going to talk about why this is a problem, because I work, my husband works, so my parents pick my daughter up from school a couple days a week, right? We raise our children as a family. It's a big family. It's a village. There's aunties, uncles, right? Everybody. What happens? My daughter, my dad says she meows like a cat. Papa, Papa, Papa. He can handle that for 3 seconds and then he gives her his phone, right? Does he have any settings on that phone? No, of course not. So she's getting on his phone, looking all over Facebook. That's the only one I've downloaded for him, by the way, because he doesn't know how to download anything, so I have to do it for him. I will not get him TikTok. I will not let him on Instagram. No, he has Facebook. Here's what I loved. She scrolls, and when I pick her up that night, she goes, "Hey, Mommy, did you know some lady in Russia wants to marry Papa?" What are you talking about? She goes, "Oh yeah, this lady, all fancy. She was a very pretty lady. She was on his Facebook and she says she wants to marry him." Oh my, okay. Nope, you're shut down, Dad, because you're just giving my kid the So Facebook is the 2nd most downloaded app in 22 because of people like my father, right? Go to the other column. Most of our social media platforms have parental settings. One of the things that I love about the guides is for every major social media platform, we walk you through how to set the parental settings on either a handheld device, right, a tablet or a phone, or even on a computer, okay? So we're helping you figure out how to create some of those boundaries. YouTube has the most safety settings. This doesn't surprise us. Every single one of us in the Great Dumpster Fire, right? Your teachers sent your kids home with YouTube videos every day for distance learning. Who's with me? Will.i.am and Sesame Street every morning. That was my life, right? Because in lockdown, she was kindergarten into first grade. We all know how to get on YouTube now. The least safety settings, TikTok. Y'all, there are no safety settings on TikTok. There is nothing in TikTok that would allow you to create parameters in the app itself. It does not surprise me that the most downloaded app is the one with no safety settings. That's not a coincidence. So what do you do if you're like me and there's a tablet, there's a couple of phones, there's a smart TV, then you have Russian bride grandpa over here with his devices. We went for a parental control app, okay? We researched 7. These are the 7 that our team researched and we talk about in the guides. There's more than this. Couple of things to know. Number 1, they all cost money. The one that is usually the cheapest is Family Time. That one is consistently the least expensive. And the apps are set up, it's a per user, per device monthly fee, okay? $2.99, $3.99. It's not crazy money, but please know these all cost money, okay? What these are though, they're an umbrella app for the whole device, the whole phone, the whole smart TV. I had a mom come up to me when I did this presentation, where was I? Linden, their smart refrigerator. They've got a fridge that you can get on the internet, like while you're standing there to fill your water bottle. I don't know why, but this is a thing. If it is a smart device, you can download the parental control app and then have control of the device. So what does that help you do? You can limit how much total time your kids spend in any specific app or on their device in total. Here's an important one, particularly for gaming. You can limit if they can spend real money on the device. So if you have concerns about your kids gaming on their phone or even gaming on their console and buying stuff, because this is real, kids are buying mods to video games and then they download malware and suddenly some creepy dude in Russia is able to turn on your camera and watch and see what's going on. This is real, right? Or even worse, when we think about Troy's presentation, right, we buy into a site and now we have access for, I can't even get my head around the horrible things that he's talking about, okay? You can limit your kids' ability to spend money. You can lock them out of individual apps. Don't put the dishes away. I'm locking you out of Snapchat until you do, right? Versus, I love talking to parents who say, well, I just changed the Wi-Fi password if the kids don't do their chores. I'm like, but then I got to change the Wi-Fi password. No, this locks the whole thing. And again, you can put it on your smart TV. Apparently, you can put it on a smart refrigerator, anything that is a smart device. And you can scale up or scale down the amount of controls you do or don't let your kids have. Okay, very quickly, I'm going to go high level through the apps. YouTube, again, we all know what YouTube is. It's a video sharing platform. Back in 2018, parents with kids under the age of 11, 81% at that point said their kids were on YouTube. 61% said their kids had found content that was not appropriate. And this is pre-COVID distance learning. Y'all, we're all on YouTube now. Everybody's on YouTube. Here are some 2 important lessons about YouTube from our family that we learned the hard way. So, right, distance learning, the kid comes home with the school Chromebook. Yes, we're logged into the Chromebook through our Escalon Unified School District account. She's rocking out to Will.i.am Sesame Street. I happen to be in the room. She clicks a different Sesame Street video. It's a Sesame Street video with a profanity, sexually laced overlay that somebody manipulated the video. I couldn't get her out of that thing fast enough. It was beyond inappropriate. I was blushing, right? 45 years old, I was having a hard time. This is a thing that now exists on YouTube. Bad guys, just like the bad guys Troy was talking about, have taken children's videos. What is it? Paw Patrol, Bubble Guppies. I mean, y'all think our littles videos, and they've overlaid them with profanity, with sexual content, with stuff that's completely inappropriate. And if your kids have your headphones on and you turn and see that it's a bubble guppy video, you don't know that that content is inappropriate. And also, that got through on the Escalon Unified School District account. So please don't think that if your kids are on devices from school, that there isn't inappropriate content. So what is our rule in our family? Our rule in our family is she can't watch YouTube with headphones on. That's our rule, because I want to be able to hear what's going on. I also want to be clear, what my family's doing works for my family. What you are going to choose to do, that's on you. I'm not here to tell you how to parent. Lord knows I'm having a hard enough time doing it just by myself with mine, right? But I want you to be thinking about this and thinking about what are the rules that are age appropriate. And you need to know that there are these horrible videos out there that look like it's innocent content, but in fact, it's not. And don't think that the school district account is locking out inappropriate content, because the bad guys have figured out how to manipulate even the settings that our school districts put on those devices. It's coming. It's thinking. It's like my computer at home. Just kick it twice in the back, shimmy it a little bit. There we go. All right, Facebook. Again, only for old people. In fact, here's the thing that's crazy to me. There's 8 billion people on the planet. This was as of the end of 22. As of now, there's over 3 billion people on Facebook. Like that, it absolutely blows my mind. It's not young people, but remember, who's on Facebook that's addicted? My dad. I want you to think about who's helping you with your kids. Is it your neighbor? Is it your parent? Is it your tia? Who's helping you? And are they like my dad? And do you need to have a conversation with them about what your rules are for your child, even when they're with them? I had to put the parental control app on my dad's phone. Like, I have locked my phone. I've locked my dad. By the way, parental control apps, right? Great for old people and young people, because I'm in between the two. It's an important conversation to have with the village that's helping you raise your kids, and realize that what you have said is okay. They may not have that same train of thought. So you need to be thinking about who's helping you and making sure they know what you want them to do and not want them to do in terms of what social media or gaming when your kids are with them. Okay, well, I am advancing. We haven't fed the laptop. It's hungry, maybe hangry at this particular point. It's okay. It's okay. Sure. I have to remember. You'd think as many times as I've done this that I would remember by now. Okay. My brain is telling me next is Instagram. That's what it's telling me. Okay. Instagram. All right. So Instagram is the second most popular app with the kids today. Here's what I want you all to remember about Instagram. By the way, right? Each page walks you through one of the individual apps, right? So I did this presentation and I had members from the Turlock Police Department come and talk with me about what they're seeing at the campuses in Turlock Unified School District. And here's what the Turlock PD said. There we go. Turlock PD said, as parents, we're letting our kids get one Instagram account and we friend them. And so we see what they're doing on Instagram. I need you to take your kids' phones, tablets. I need you to take those kids' devices on a regular basis. I need you to open up Instagram. I need you to go to their profile page and I need you to click their name in the upper left-hand corner. And I want you to see how many profiles that kid actually is running on Instagram. Because here's the thing. You're not taking your kid's property and looking at it. And your kids are running 3 profiles on Instagram, 5 profiles on Instagram. This police officer told me he had a girl who was running 12 different profiles on Instagram. Personally, I want that kind of time in my life. And one was her cheerleader look. And one was, you know, her like soccer player image. And she was running all these different lives on Instagram, and her parents had no idea because they had seen one profile that they had said was okay and didn't know she was running all these other profiles. So when you start thinking about the scary stuff Troy was talking to you about, what other profiles do your kids have on Instagram, and who are they in relationship with? People, take those phones, take those tablets, look, see what's going on, or better yet, use the parental settings to prohibit their ability to create additional profiles. Or use the parental control app to manage how much they can do with an Instagram. But it's important that you understand, right? Like, I can see kids in the audience rolling their eyes at me like my child. Like, we just got to keep up with them, y'all. We just got to keep up. In my perfect world, we get ahead of them. But when I was 14, there was a pair of cutoff shorts and a tube top at the bottom of my backpack for when I got to school so I could change my clothes, right? Now that's all happening in a digital space. We got to be paying attention and seeing what's going on and what they're doing. All right, TikTok is next. TikTok now has 1 billion users. Like I said, I'm not holding my breath that Congress gets it together along with the president to outlaw TikTok. Remember, no safety settings in TikTok. There's no parental settings in TikTok. So if you're letting your kids in TikTok have a TikTok account, just know it's the Wild West and it's a free-for-all. What you can do with the parental control app is you can prohibit their ability to get in, or you can limit how much time they can spend in TikTok a day. What my slide tells you is, on average, teenagers are in TikTok 8 different times a day for an average of 68 minutes a day. Like, when we think about addiction and obsession, it's there. The time that they're in the app tells us they're in TikTok, and that is where they're spending a lot of their time and energy. Snapchat. Snapchat is still popular. Again, I'm an old lady. I would have thought the kids would have learned there is nothing that disappears, right? It's all there. It's all in the Snapchat databases. The databases have been hacked. Pictures have gone shared. Messages have been shared. But teenagers still like the idea that the message, the video, or the picture is there, and then it's gone. Please just know nothing is ever gone. It will exist forever and ever till the end of time. And we, again, as parents, families, need to understand that what they think it doesn't actually do. Okay? Snapchat is super popular for messaging. All right, Reddit. I didn't know that Reddit was as big a deal as it is. Again, I'm old. Reddit is the number 5, fifth most searched website in the United States today. And what is Reddit? It is one gigantic message board with message boards with message boards, okay? So it's Reddit, and you have subreddits for every topic you could ever possibly imagine. Millions of subreddits exist, and it is close to impossible for Reddit to keep up with the amount of inappropriate content that they receive to take it down, because there's literally just too much. So how does this work? We have a Great Dane. We like Great Dane dogs. So I didn't know anything about Reddit, so I just went into Reddit to see what happens. I looked for mantle Great Danes. Mantle are the ones that look like Dalmatians, black and white. I went to look for mantle Great Danes with blue eyes and 6 toes. Could you get more random than that? No, you cannot. And you know there was a subreddit to talk about mantle Great Danes with blue eyes and 6 toes. There was a whole group of people talking about these dogs, showing pictures of their dogs, talking about how they take care of these dogs. This thing has message boards for message boards for message boards. Why do we care about that with our kids? Well, first of all, when we're listening to Troy, that is a community right for predators to find your kids. And why do I care about all these message boards? If your child has not found their people, if they feel like they're misunderstood, if they don't feel like they belong, if they haven't found that group of people at school, at church, in sports that accept them, you go to a place where there are people who love the most random combination of things, and they are going to find the acceptance they so desperately crave. And I don't care where you come from, the human experience is to be accepted and loved. And if that's not happening at school, if that doesn't happen at home, if that doesn't happen in these other places, they will find people to accept them who like the things that they like on Reddit. And of course, everybody on the internet is telling the truth. Said no one ever. No one ever. And these kids are sharing where they live. They're agreeing to meet people in person. All the things that Troy talked about, take some pictures, send them to me, do a little dance, give me a video. That all exists in these boards on Reddit. And as a parent, the only way you can do the parent controls is if you create an account and the kids log in. But you don't have to log in to use Reddit. All you got to do is Google it. All you got to do is Google it. And the Reddit comes up and you can start messaging without ever having logged in. So again, a parental control app that helps you manage their access to that site or that app on the device is one of the best ways you can manage that. Okay, there's a couple of up and coming apps that we talk about in the guide. I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. In the guide, we give you a really great glossary. So there are so many words that get used in social media, right? Acronyms, shorthand. I mean, my husband talks to me about it all the time, right? Because high school teacher, he's like my walking urban dictionary, right? He knows all the stuff that the kids are talking about. But if you're my mom and dad, I'm not kidding. My mom read this and there's troll, right? Like mean, nasty people saying horrible things to you. My mom's reaction was, oh, that movie was so cute with that poppy and the bright colors and the hair. Trolls is such a cute movie. I'm like, Mom, no, wrong trolls, right? So making sure the people in your life, particularly those folks who aren't in social media, read through the glossary to understand the words, understand the lingo, huge help, huge help. Okay. All right. I'm just gonna keep rolling. Okay, I'm gonna keep rolling. Okay, we're hopping over to gaming. Gaming is the green one. Okay, remember, I don't game. We don't game in our family, right? Old. I'm very comfortable with being old. But the first time I did this presentation at the County Office of Education, the cover story of the Modesto Bee that day was the fact that Modesto City Schools has formed gaming clubs, sports gaming clubs. So kids at all the different high schools in Modesto can now compete in Madden football. This is a thing. It's part of our life. It is embedded into our culture. And I'm okay with it, right? Because I want kids who love something, again, to feel accepted, to find a community. So gaming is here and it's a very big part of our lives today. Okay, there's 2 websites in gaming that I want you to really, really know about. Number 1 is Twitch, okay? Twitch. If you're attempting to follow along, that's page 10, okay? Twitch is where we go to watch people play video games, right? So the new edition of Grand Theft Auto comes out. They pay big money to have some guy, some gal play the newest version of Grand Theft Auto. And no joke, millions of people log in to watch this. And while they're watching this person play the latest edition of Grand Theft Auto, there's a message board going. And we're talking about the latest color of whatever the car is and who the celebrity voices are and all that kind of stuff. 150 million people are using Twitch on an annual basis. And if your kids once told you they want to be a TikTok influencer, somebody might now tell you they want to be a Twitch influencer because people get paid a lot of money to play games on this website for people to watch. But it's the same issues that we see with Reddit, right? It's the fact that there's message boards where people can come in and have a conversation, solicit information, prey upon our kids. And depending upon the conversations you've had with your kids, what information are they sharing? How much are they telling people? Discord is the other one. Excuse me. Discord is the Reddit of gaming. So Discord is a site that it's, again, just message boards for your message boards, but it's just about video games. So the same way that you can go find the Mantle Great Dane with blue eyes and 6 toes, you can go into Discord and find 2022 Grand Theft Auto, Who Loves the Purple Impala? I mean, it's like that level of granular. And again, same concept. The people that are in Discord, are they who they say they are? Discord has 150 million people using the site every month. That's a lot of people loving some video game. And who are they? And what are your kids talking about with those folks? Okay, glossary. This is why I want people whose kids aren't gaming. I still want you to take the gaming glossary. Because my husband told me that last year when he was finishing up the school year, and he teaches shop, he teaches small engines, farm power, and he's got desks that are in the shop. 1174 was carved into like 4 of his desks. And I'm like, what is 1174? Well, as our glossary will teach you, 1174 can mean 2 things. It can mean nude club or meet in person. Now, how I'm supposed to know which is beyond me, but I'm pretty certain all of us old people in the room, there's nothing about 1174 that would make you think that my kid is trying to meet someone or we're going to a nude club. Okay. And the fact that it's carved into my husband's desks tells us this is leaving the gaming world and coming into real life. This is part of how our kids are communicating with one another in real life. Okay. I have done this presentation enough, but now I'm having to remember what slide comes next. Yep. No. Okay. Couple other things. How addictive is video gaming? Almost 10% of kids between the ages of 6 and 18 in the United States today are clinically addicted to video games. Clinically addicted. So the way you're thinking about the person in your life that might be addicted to alcohol or addicted to drugs, we have almost 10% of our children addicted to video gaming. And the reality is the same help that you need when you have drug addiction or alcohol addiction, our kids need to address gaming addiction. Nope, I can't remember the statistics off the top of my head. I thought I could. No, okay, so I'm gonna skip ahead to a couple other really, go back one. Let me go back one. Nope. There it is. Nope. We'll do this one. Cyberbullying, warning signs. Okay, this might be the most important slide I show you. So just like Troy had a slide that spoke to signs and symptoms that somebody might be at risk of or potentially being trafficked, here's what I want you to think about when you think of cyberbullying. If you are like me, everything on this list, I have told myself, she's 10, the hormones are kicking in. This is normal. This is just part of adolescence. I will survive this. She will be fine, okay? I don't initially say to myself, what is happening to her in her digital space? My brain didn't go to, she plays a video game. What are they talking about in the chat? My brain didn't go to, did she find somebody because my dad gave her Facebook? Did she find somebody on Facebook and now she's talking to people? Because, y'all, my 10-year-old is freaking smart, way smarter than me when it comes to know how to use this stuff. And I promise you, your kids are smarter than you when it comes to how to use this stuff. So what I need all of us to think about is when our kids are moody, when they're having a hard time sleeping, if they're gaining weight or losing weight, if they're just generally antisocial. What teenager is not antisocial? What 10-year-old isn't antisocial, right? They don't enjoy doing the stuff that they used to like doing. Your kid loved playing soccer. Now he wants nothing to do with soccer. You know they've been on a game or they've been on a device and they've been online and they come out and they're upset or they're angry or they're frustrated. I need the first thing that you think is what was said to them online. What are they talking about online? What is happening online? I do not need the first thing you think to be, that's just being a teenager. Because if you're like me, right? Graduated high school in '97. Back in the good old days, if I did not like that girl, I shoved her twice. She shoved me back. Someone yelled fight. The principal came running and they broke us up like 2 seconds later, right? That happens a little bit now, but most of it is online. We are cruel to each other online. We are vicious. We are mean. And you better think when your kiddo is giving you more eye rolls than normal, what was said to them online? What are they talking about to them online? Not what happened at school, because it's not happening in person at school. It's all happening in Snapchat, on Fortnite, when you think they're playing their cousin. I promise you, they're not playing their cousin, okay? What is being said in the digital space? We have to retrain our brains. You, my parents, right? My 79-year-old parents, we need to be thinking about what is happening online. Lastly, what do you need to do to help your kids? Well, thank you for being here tonight. This is a little bit like preaching to the choir. Set boundaries. I am okay with the fact that my daughter's going to hate me for a couple of years. I'm very okay with that. Why? Because I'm her mom. I'm not her friend. Telling her no is important. Taking the device away at night is important. You guys, they changed the start of school in the state of California because we're letting our kids stay on devices until midnight, 1 a.m. They're not getting any sleep and they're coming to school exhausted. So what did the legislature do? They moved the start of school back. They did not say, take the device away. They moved the start of school back instead. And what is happening? They're still staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning on their devices. They're still coming to school exhausted. It is okay if they hate you when they're teenagers. We will be friends in our 30s. Right now, set boundaries. Say no. Please model responsible behavior for the kids in your life. Please do not be my dad. My dad is a device hypocrite because he is on it all day and then tells her she can't have it. And then she says, but why, Papa? You get to be on your phone all day. And then he says, because I'm an adult. And then she says, that's stupid. Yes, it is. Model healthy behavior, because as it turns out, we're not okay either. We're addicted. We're on our devices too much. We don't know how to have a conversation with humans, look each other in the eye, ask each other how we're doing. Model good behavior. The American Academy of Pediatrics has a great tool in English, in Spanish, called a family media plan. What is your family's plan for your media devices? Listen, y'all, on Saturday, we will all be binging Netflix in 3 corners of the house. I guarantee it. This will happen on Saturday in my house because it's been a long week. We're exhausted. It's okay. Because part of our plan includes we give ourselves time during the week to binge out on Netflix. But we hold each other accountable and we talk about it as a family. Talk about it with your families and have a plan. All right. QR codes, if you have people who don't like paper, who want stuff digital, all of this is available online in English and Spanish. My presentation, there's an English version of the video online as well. Please share. If you all want this presentation at your church, with your youth group, with your soccer league, that's my email, that's my cell phone, reach out. I am happy to come out and talk to anyone and everyone, because frankly, gang, we have to, the adults, we have to take ownership and responsibility for this, and we have to be the ones that help make sure our kids get better, have better mental health, better emotional health. Thanks, everyone. Absolutely.
With Newman Police Department. I am the contact for Newman for the Internet Crimes Against Children, which works with the Sacramento Sheriff's Department, which works with the National the Exploited Children's Over Media group. So it's really out there. It's really big. and we try to reach out as much as we can, but ours is based off of tips. So it starts with parents all the time. Parents are our first clue. The parents are the ones that let us know something's going on, let us know something seems wrong, or they just found it and because their kids came to them, which is always great and helpful. On the side that I work on, it's just based on tips, and it's just so you know, all the social media sites and the apps, the majority of them, not all of them, sorry, have algorithms that go through everything that's going on. If they feel anything's exploiting a child, it dings, it gets sent to the Internet Crimes Against Children. They try to find a pinpoint, and then they send it to a police department that works it. And then from there, we work the case on trying to figure out, is it a legitimate exploitation, or did some kid put some picture on their phone they weren't supposed to just have? Either way, we always come out and reach out and talk to parents, no matter what happens. She was correct on the apps. That's how they reach out to your children. I will say here in Newman, we have it nice. We're a small town. We don't see the amount of human trafficking, but there is a lot of grooming. As they were talking about, that's where they get you started. I've seen several people, and I work with Modesto PD. They start out in Newman. They get groomed through high school, through parties and hangouts, and they treat them nicely. And then all of a sudden, they're 18, so they know their parents don't have any say-so. Oh, come hang out in Modesto with me. Stay the night. Don't worry about it. Oh, my buddy's paying for a hotel so we can hang out. And then what happens? Your child gets in an argument with you. Oh, you know what, Mom? I'm 18. I'm leaving. They go to Modesto, and you don't hear from them for 2 days, and they come home. They were being exploited. They were told it was a party, and you know what? This guy liked you so much, he just gave you money to hang out. And that's where that human trafficking starts, because they're already 18. But they've been groomed since they were 15, 16, because this was a senior they hung out with that was really cool. And that's one of the things is, as we like to tell parents, is know their friends. Knowing friends is really big, because you will notice there's the friend that always says, oh, I don't need to meet your parents. I don't want to see your parents. Don't tell your parents you're hanging out with me. That's probably the friend that is starting that grooming process, because the less you know about the friend, the easier it is for them to get them into another town, another place, help them start an argument with you so they just leave. And what you just think is, oh, it's a bad friend. This person's just doing bad things, but not my child. Your child will do bad things with them, not because they're a bad kid, but because of the influence. They're accepted. They're happy when they're doing this because everybody's telling them, hey, you're doing a great job. Keep doing this. It's fun, isn't it? Look at all the friends we have because we're doing this. And that's something you got to look out for as a parent. That's probably my biggest one. I had talked to Miss Julie here about that I see is just the grooming of children in Newman. It said, again, you got to know their friends. You got to talk to them. I know it's a lot sometimes. We work, we're tired. Oh, good, they want to go to a friend's house. Go to a friend's house, but find out who that friend is. Meet that friend. I mean, I know some of us are a little older, and what happened, right? You always, oh, I can't go unless your mom calls my mom. Keep that up. Just saying, oh, well, that's them on Instagram and looking at a photo. That could be a full fake profile. So keep up that, that little bit of old school. I know we're moving new school, but even if it's just a phone call, is this your real mom? Oh, what are you doing? Hey, my daughter's coming. Oh, my son's going to stay the night. Keep that up. Be involved. That's the best advice I can give you on the law enforcement side. I'm open for questions. I know there's probably some technical stuff, and I'll give you as best I can of an answer. So we can start with questions. No questions at all? Do you guys have questions? No questions? Oh, there's one. Go ahead. Yes. So good question. If you guys didn't hear, just as they were talking about cyberbullying, there is a line that's crossed. There is a California Penal Code 653 M. Mary, which is harassing through social media or cell phone, like calling. It doesn't work for scammers. Sorry, I know they're harassing you, but it doesn't cross that threshold. But if it's someone, say they're just posting bad pictures, making memes that are very, very inappropriate about you, things like that, and posting them, if you can collect those, make a police report, or at least show that you showed effort, that you told that person, hey, I don't want these anymore. And it's shown, because one of the elements is they have to do it knowingly that they're trying to annoy or molest you, and not molest in the touchy way, but molest as in making you feel bad, and they're just knowingly and willfully, maliciously trying to do this to make you feel bad or hurt your career or something like that in that way. And that is going to be, again, California Penal Code 653 M. Mary. So it said that is a crime. It is a misdemeanor. Some of the things we look for when you come to us is, one, again, that the person that did it knowingly and willfully did it to hurt you. And I mean, not physically, but emotionally, or your job, or some kind of income you get. And then that there has been an attempt to make this person stop. So you have a message that said, hey, I don't like that. I need you to take that down. And they say, no, I don't want to. Why? This is funny. Forget you, or whatever other language they use. Then you're on that pursuit of an actual crime. Oh, yes. It does pertain to minors. It does pertain to minors. The problem is that will go through a juvenile court. And obviously it's really hard because our juvenile court would be flooded daily. But that's that communication portion of, again, minors telling minors, hey, you need to stop, or letting admin staff know on the campuses, this is what they're doing. And again, now if it's shown that they have been approached, administration has approached and told them to stop, and this is going, now you can start getting into that crime section. Go ahead. So the curfew is actually 10 o'clock. Generally, our patrol is really good. If they see someone out past 10, they look like a minor, they'll generally stop them, see where they're going, and send them home. Obviously, we're not trying to arrest every kid that's out there. And sometimes you're just coming home from a friend's house and it's 11 o'clock. So the curfew is 10 o'clock. As a community, just know where your kids are. Again, it's not a crime to leave your friend's house at 11 and walk home. You're not violating curfew, but it is a crime to go out, go to Pioneer Park. All our parks here in Newman close at 10. So that is a crime. You can't just go hang out at the park at night, especially if you're underage. There is, just kind of know where your kids are at. But if your kid is coming from a friend's house to a friend's house, just let them know, hey, when you leave, you come straight home, and just know their whereabouts. So the biggest thing is just communicating with your children and knowing where they are. Question here? Okay. Uh-huh. So I can tell you from what I'm allowed to say, there was no sexual relations between an officer and a high school student. Past that, it's an internal investigation that's handled by the administration. And if you would like to know more, you can go talk to the lieutenant and the chief. I can't say anything other than what I do know from outside. That's what I have. Yes. Oh. Yes. Yeah, this is a big one. I know minors do minor things and they exchange photos and they do stuff like that. Well, technically, exchanging photos isn't a crime. It's a crime once somebody is mad that you have that photo. So technically, they still are in possession of child pornography. They are manufacturing child pornography because they're underage. So if it is on their phone, now again, we just can't go and search your phones, right? That's Fourth Amendment violation. But if we have a crime that says, and I'll say it's called the revenge porn law. It's California Penal Code 647, I believe it's J4. On that one is, again, if somebody is sending out your photos, videos, anything of you that they have in possession that is sexually wrong or you're just nude, but they're doing it in a vengeful manner, that is also a misdemeanor. So I know we have boyfriends and girlfriends and husbands and wives and we send that, but as soon as someone splits, what usually happens? Everybody gets to see what you did, right? Unfortunately, my best thing is to tell, do not do it. Keep it off your phone. Because there's a couple of cases that have happened. Kids have it on their phone. One parent finds it. The other kid says, oh, they sent it to me. I didn't want it. It becomes a police report. It's an actual crime. We do an investigation. And now you have two kids with child pornography, in possession of child pornography, manufactured, especially if it shows their faces. And that's at least 3 misdemeanors. And you're looking at, if the DA takes it up, you're looking at a 290, which is a pedophile charge, which is PC 290. So, and they slap them that with their 16, and they have to roll with it for at least 10 years. Yes. You're not going to get an accessory to a fact. Again, I mean, could we dive that deep? Yes. So that's going to be a bunch of misdemeanors. And the DA is probably going to look at me and say, there's real cases you need to go handle while you're wasting my time. If you know about it and you feel it's inappropriate, then yes, report it. And that's where I would go. That's where that parenting and have to say something come along. There's some things you just got to tell your kids, no, get it off your phone. Don't do this again. Stop. And that's what they need. Sometimes, they're not going to do it better. Like you said, you're a third party, no one else is going to tell them, and it's probably going to get worse. And you just got to help them out by filing a report with the police department. Yes. We're trying. So unfortunately, we're a small department. So trying to pull 2 people away, pulls from patrol, and then trying to get people out here on days off because we're kind of all spread out. Like I've been in training the last 2 weeks. That's why I was late. So I'm very sorry for that. But I know Sergeant Williams, if any of you know her, she's really good at that. I will be doing a bike safety for the community on the 26th. Sergeant Williams was doing, I believe, the etch and sketch for the catalytic converters. We're trying to get back with Coffee and the Cop. I think we're going to probably need input for Coffee with the Cop from the community because the 2 times we held it, I know this is kind of a commuter community, so there wasn't many people there. There's like 2 or 3, and I think most people were at work, so we're going to have to develop a better time for that. I know our SRO, he's usually at all the, is it Monday morning coffees with the schools? Second cup of coffee. Yeah, Corporal Lopez is really good with that. He's trying to show up to all those. So if you show up to those with the school, he's usually there to try to answer some questions. It makes it a lot easier on admin when he's there. So we're trying to get out there, but again, we're always looking for more ideas. Feel free to call into the thing, or you see us on the streets, flag us down and give us some ideas that you may have that we can bring to the community as well. Yes. So that's going to be rough. I should say that split parents and the other parent lets them use the phone. It's tough, right? We just have to be adults. I don't have any legal advice for you on that. But you really have to work together. You know, I can't tell a parent what to do to look in their child's phone or to check their phone or as a parent, you can do what you can do. Because then I get into the legal things. Now you're helping me find bad people, and it's unfortunately that's okay. So my yeah. Yeah, again, that's a parental thing. So okay, I thought I had it wrong. Thank you. Yeah, it's again, it's a parental thing. If you're paying for the phone, I mean, do what you want. I mean, it gets really, again, for us to intervene as a police department, my answer is no. If he is 18 and you gave him the phone, I cannot do anything to tell him to let you look at his phone. As a parent, though, and you're paying for the phone, do what you need to do as a parent. Again, law-wise, I can't. We're just talking about parental controls and turning off the phone. Um, if you have control of their phone, you can stop it at any time of the night that you need to. Again, you pay for the phone, control the phone. You guys, you know, it's I know that's one thing I know law enforcement and the way things in parenting and you guys still have all the control. And you'll find that out. If you ever call us out, there's not much we can do when it comes to parenting. There's no law that says that, you know, I get to help you parent. You are the parent. And we're pretty honest with you guys. If you guys have ever called us out, we'll tell you, what do you want us to do? This isn't a legal issue. Like I'm not going to go. And I know a lot of us are getting new before, right? The cops used to go and yell at your kid and scare them and tell them fake things. And then they'd leave and then they believed the cops were the bad person. And then we found out it's kind of bad because then when it came down to time, some of the bad ones would test you. Well, like, oh, are you going to do it? Well, legally I can't. So now I'm walking away feeling really dumb, right? So we took the other approach where we start to help the parents out, give you a little more advice, and then let the kid know this isn't what we can do. But if you end up keep doing this, this is where we'll be. And then you deal with us and your parents can't save you anymore. And that usually helps out a little better. Yes. Oh, just outside of this, just probably property crimes. That's probably the biggest thing. People stealing from abandoned homes that are there. Again, if you guys see something, say something. You know, we try to know the residents, but we don't know exactly who lives where. Or so if you look like you're working on your car, we assume you're working on your car. We don't think you're a bad person. So, you know, but if your neighbor knows that's not your neighbor, like that's not their car, call in. So now we know that person's not supposed to be there. So yeah, it's going to be property crimes, you know, breaking into vehicles, stealing stuff off front of properties, things like that. But again, the biggest part is people don't know their neighbors. Again, that communication part, know your neighbors. So, you know, hey, they don't belong there, and then we can help you guys out as good as possible. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sergeant Gomez, Amy, and Troy. Thank you guys also, parents, Edward, our technology, our food service, as well. Our helpers, our vendors. Thank you guys for helping make this happen. And parents, thank you for making the sacrifice. Again, these are events that we would love to continue holding. Our current superintendents for it, and Ms. Palacio also allows us to utilize the room here as well. So thank you guys for making that time. We have some the little flyers, folders, informational still. We have a bunch left. You guys are more than welcome to come and get some. And thank you and have a great night. Thank you for coming.
Sure.